update from the left-wing riots. Mad Maxine is at it again, and our special guest, Michael SCHWARTZ from San Diego County Gun Owners. This is The Loaded Mic, and I'm Dan Wass. Democrats seem to be convinced that they'll gain political power by creating division and violence in America. Now, they do it through race baiting, demonizing the wealthy, putting women against men, dividing children from their parents, accusing people of being homophobic, and any other way they can divide people. But many people believe that they do it for the votes and to change the Electoral College by bringing in illegals. Now, some people think Democrats have become so angry that it's just anger in their hearts. In their heart of hearts, they know that they're the bad guys. Now, it could be a combination of both, but we saw some of the worst riots since the Democrats lit the country on fire in 2020. And we often wonder how they could be so destructive to America. How do you let 20 million illegal and many violent foreigner trespassers into our country unvetted and then make real Americans feel guilty for opposing that sort of thing? And how could you arrest and keep locked up for 4 years American patriots for speaking out against a stolen election and let illegal killers and rapists run free? Logical thinking people look at this behavior and can't believe that it's happening. But the media spins it so it appears to be normal. Yes, left-wing behavior, as disgusting as it is, has been normalized in the eyes of many. Many simply don't want to call it out for the fear of conflict. Well, we're going to call it out today. We're going to tell you exactly how real Americans feel about the violent and anti-American behavior from the left wing. So we're going to talk about this and many other things with He's So Smart, Your IQ Will Increase Just by Being Friends with Him on Facebook, John Chiara. And today with us, we have our very special guest, Executive Director of San Diego County Gun Owners, Michael SCHWARTZ. All right. So, Michael, welcome to the show. Thanks for being here. Thanks for dealing with us as we got set up. We had a couple technical issues. How are you?
Good, man. Thanks for having me. A nice shirt. I like your shirt.
Yeah, I thought hey, you gotta.
What a schmooze.
You gotta promote. Well, look at it, as John's wearing the News 2A shirt. We promote our friends. You guys support us. We support you. That's part of how we do it here, especially in the Second Amendment world. So, Michael, you got a lot of stuff going on there in your state, but I wanted to get into the riots. I'm sure we can talk about some gun stuff, blue state gun legislation. I'm sure we got tons of that stuff to talk about, but on the minds of everybody right now is these riots we just saw, and primarily in LA, or at least starting in LA. So we recently saw the political left successfully fabricate what has essentially become a war in the streets between, illegals and those who support them against American citizens and our police, our law enforcement. What do you think they're hoping to achieve with all this stuff? What's the goal?
It's pretty crazy. I've been talking for a while publicly about how political violence on the left is far too accepted. And that's probably not a, stop the press moment. I think everybody kind of knows it, and they really seem to be more comfortable with becoming violent to try to basically bully people into doing what they want. It's just not even a problem for them. Throwing rocks and taking to the streets, whatever. I'm all for the First Amendment. I'm extremely supportive of the First Amendment. I'm unapologetic about, people's rights to assemble and speak, and religion, everything. But when it comes to violence, you're no longer protected by the First Amendment. When it comes to violence, you're no longer protesting or demonstrating. You're now rioting. And the left is way too comfortable. The right is not perfect. The left is not perfect. But on this subject, the left side of the political spectrum it's an enormous problem that they own, and when you talk about it, you say, well, gee, the left needs to stop rioting. And people on the left go, what about January 6th?
Yeah, right.
You know what? Number one, that was one incident that took one day that I got to tell you, I agree. I thought it went too far, and people that were there, I thought it was a bad idea. The whole thing was a disaster. But that one afternoon that got way out of hand and turned into a riot, that doesn't equal all of the political violence on the left. I mean,
well,
it's
look
just
at 2020. What about 2020? It was insane.
Yeah, and it was insane. In 2020, it wasn't even just like it was happening one place or at one time. I mean, it was like months of riots, violence, and burning cities down that were all over the map. I mean, here in San Diego, we have 18 cities just in the county of San Diego. And, more than one of them, there was some kind of violence. There was some kind of, incident where people were throwing rocks and beating people and burning stuff down just in one little section of the country. It's really crazy. Something has to happen.
Yeah.
And I think that this, seeing what's happening, seeing the federal government saying, okay, you know what, there was a flare up. It happened for a couple of days in LA. And now we're going to take over the National Guard and we're going to send them in. And now we're going to take Marines and we're going to surround federal buildings and we're going to squash this thing. I think that's what needs to happen more often. Any tiny little flare up needs to be squashed.
Well, isn't that don't they call that the broken window rule or something? You fix the very first window that gets broken, and then you maintain, because once you leave the one window, then another window gets broken, then somebody comes along and paints a little graffiti, and before you know it, you got a hellhole.
It was fun as a kid, though, throwing rocks through windows. You got to admit.
I admit it.
Adults, I don't know.
Well, I remember in my neighborhood on Halloween, it was like freaking Ferguson. It was just kids losing their minds. But that's the problem. We were stopped. The cops would come and everybody would scatter, and that was it. That was the end of it. But we have these riots, these left-wing riots are adults. Most of them are grown. They're not little kids like we were 13, 14, 15 years old just being stupid. They're really doing. As a matter of fact, can you play clip 2 where they're throwing rocks off the bridge, Danny?
That's great.
Watch this. Could you imagine driving under that bridge and having a rock come through your windshield?
Can you imagine? You might be dead.
And they don't even care that they're caught on camera.
They don't.
It's not even. It doesn't faze them.
They should throw them over the bridge.
They should.
But I think, and this is part of what I'm talking about. They're so comfortable with it. I don't even think that they think what they're doing is really all that wrong. I think that they're going, hey, we did this before, we'll do it again, and that whole attitude needs to stop.
Yeah,
I saw gun advocates doing stuff like that.
Yeah,
we'd be the first ones to say, "What the heck is wrong with you? Crazy?"
Well, even when there is like sometimes we'll see videos of firearm instructors making really bad mistakes. And we pointed out to the rest of the people in the firearm community, say, look, see this idiot? Don't do that. And we all agree. We go, yeah. Every once in a while you'll get that, but we hold each other accountable. These people, I don't know what the hell they're doing. They're just going bananas. And I think you're right. Maybe they don't think like they're doing something wrong. I think they actually believe that they're doing good. They actually have been brainwashed to the extent that they believe what they're doing is righteous and for the better of humanity or whatever.
I think there's a big dose of the ends justifies the means. They think that they're morally superior, ultimately what they're trying to accomplish, they're morally superior.
Yeah.
And therefore whatever it takes to get to that end is okay, even if it includes violence.
Sure. Once you make the leader Hitler, you can do it. It justifies everything. You can do anything you want.
And then there was this, I wanted to talk a little bit about the thing. So ridiculous. They're talking about how, they don't. We don't actually own California. California
Right.
belongs to the Mexicans somehow. And I did a little research on it, and there was actually a treaty. And Michael, you probably know, you're right down there in San Diego. You probably know more about this than I do. But from what I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, there was a treaty signed back in 1848, giving California. The Mexicans gave California back to the United States. It was a treaty called the Guadalupe Hidalgo. It was signed in 1848. Mexico signed the treaty after losing the Mexican-American War that occurred from 1846 to 1848.
That they started.
And under the treaty, Mexico ceded a vast amount of land, including California and a bunch of other areas of states and parts of states. And we paid them $15 million at the time, which was a lot of money, $15 million for the land. How do they own it?
There are a lot of really weird narratives that are popping up around this, but I got to tell you, even if whatever they think, whatever narrative about us stealing their land or whatever, doesn't matter. This is American land. We show it to you in writing. We have governments established. It also, like, what are they going to do? Are they trying to? Are they saying that they're doing this level of violence and they're throwing rocks and they're doing all these things because they're going to return California to Mexico? I mean, is that what you know what I mean? Like, what is the point of what they're trying to say? It doesn't make any sense.
I don't think that's really what they're trying to do. I think there's a level of hatred and destruction and just anger. Can we show that map, by the way? Just let's get that map up here. Just so people can kind of see what it was. All that land right there with looks like Arizona and Nevada,
New Mexico.
Yeah. It's ours now. So all you little protesters, it's ours, and there's nothing you can do about it. But I don't think that's really why they're doing this. There's something else. Well, first of all, I think they're getting paid.
Even so, they're true believers, Dan. You don't have to pay them to act insane.
Oh, that's
true. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they aren't sitting around going, well, I'm a fairly normal person, but if you pay me $20 an hour, I'll go be insane. No, they're crazy. I say that the emotional, extremism that has popped up, and LA is the center of influencers. So all these influencers have stopped whatever they were doing, whether they were making videos about putting on makeup or making videos about creating vegan recipes, whatever. They've all put that on hold, and they are just going overboard. And like I said, creating these crazy narratives about what's going on. And like you guys said, you start calling the leader Hitler, then you can do whatever. But one of the crazier ones was that everybody that was deported under Obama, and there were about 2 million people that were deported under Obama, every single one of them got a day in court. That's one of the new narratives, that the reason they're mad at Trump is because he's not giving every single illegal alien a day in court before they get deported. None of that's true. None of that's true, in even the slightest. It's something like 76% of the 2 million people that got deported didn't see the inside of a court at all. And that's not how it works. And they're equating due process.
You can't.
Well, I read yesterday that if they had to give everybody due process, it would take 110 years to process all the illegals that are in the country right now. And I have people giving me the argument, well, they should take that money instead of building a ballroom at the White House. They should take that money and reinforce the processing situation so these people can get their due process. I'm like, they're not supposed to be here in the first place.
Well, what due process did we American citizens have when they came over the border?
Again, and I tell people that's a general issue we have. Make it personal. Should you change? Should you hire a cook to feed the 20 homeless people that you have living in your house now because they decided to walk in and live in your house?
I always, I thought it would be great if President Trump came out with some kind of, legislation that said, okay, if you want to support some kind of policy, some kind of committee or something, some kind of system or group that would organize where if you want to support if you support this cause, illegal immigration,
buy this Trump watch.
You you have to take one into your home.
Right,
you have to pay for their food. You have to pay for their housing. You have to pay for their transportation. And you have to take legal responsibility for anything they may or may not do.
To adopt them.
You have to basically adopt them. So
Nobody would ever
do it. Even the most radical liberal would never do that.
It's just,
but it'd be a great way to hold them accountable. Hey, let me get to one of our sponsors real quick. You want to know who's fighting for your gun rights? Gun Owners of America. Now, GOA is the no compromise gun rights group. So I urge you to become a member at gunowners.org. What have they done? Well, GOA secured a preliminary injunction against the ATF pistol brace rule. GOA members submitted a record 85,000 plus comments opposing the ATF's universal registration check rule. They helped enact permitless carry in Nebraska and Florida. Now, GOA secured victories in California, Illinois, New Mexico, New York, Oregon, Pennsylvania, and Virginia. Plus, they won 2 legal victories against the ATF's zero tolerance policy. And GOA fought to overturn Joe Biden's ban on funding hunter education, shooting sports, and archery in schools. So with the constant attacks on our Second Amendment, we often ask ourselves, what can I do about it? Well, this is what you can do. You can become a member at gunowners.org and help us save the Second Amendment. Michael, I heard you trying to say something there. Sorry to interrupt you. What was it?
Not at all. Interrupting for Gun Owners of America is important. Those guys are a great organization. I highly encourage everybody to join. What I was going to say is, they come up with these little sayings, these little slogans or phrases without any explanation. Like, I don't know if you remember when Kyle Rittenhouse was, in trouble, and they were attacking him after the riot in Wisconsin. They kept saying that he took a gun over state lines. Like, that has any meaning at all. Like, so what that he took, arms over state lines. Right. And they're doing the same thing here with the whole due process, where, well, wait a minute, they're getting due process. It's just not the due process that you think they should get. And they're hanging it out there like it's an important thing. The other thing is they're saying, well, they're not actually criminals, that it's a civil matter, that being an illegal alien is not a criminal matter, it's a civil matter. So what? That's a different, or a distinction without any difference. You still get deported when you're an illegal alien, but they put it out there like it's some kind of conversation killer, which of course is the intent.
And it's still a federal issue. It's not a state
100%.
issue. It's got nothing to do with these people. That's why there are people. Again, if people would go back to first principles on some of these arguments, there wouldn't be an argument. Like, this is a federal situation. So we've seen what's happened with when all the states and the cities created sanctuary cities, and they're all a mess. And this is, it just kills me how I get so many arguments from people about, well, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that. I go, look at what's going on in all these places that you're supporting and saying that they're doing the right thing. Everything goes to hell. Everything. Yeah. And there's no recourse, there's no accountability, and they keep reelecting these people, which is amazing to me.
Well, and then when you see with your own eyes what's happening, it's undeniable, the violence that's happening. And you get people like Newsom and Kamala Harris and Maxine Waters. We got that clip of Maxine. We got a clip of Maxine Waters. It's hysterical because she's denying that there's any violence while you're literally watching the violence. It's hysterical. Can we play that?
And even those who were out of step with what we are advocating, peaceful protest, did not create any violence. Nobody was shot. Nobody was killed. Get it in your head. And so when martial law is called, what are you going to say? I missed the point. Don't miss the point, you all. Don't think that somehow, because they called out the National Guard, there was violence. There was no violence. I was on the street. I know. And I went from downtown detention back out into the community, talking to people what happened in Paramount, what happened in Compton, what happened in Inglewood. So, first of all, get it straight. And don't just rely on what you're being told or the few incidents that you...
Michael, I don't even know where to go with this. It's so ridiculous. Do people in California, I know you're in San Diego. I don't know how you're not that close, but do people actually believe her?
She's absolutely baffling. I don't know how she continues to get elected. She is the queen of saying phenomenally stupid things. But the idea that violence is only shooting and killing somebody, that anything short of that is a peaceful protest, is so ludicrous. You just don't even know how to respond. But I liked the side by side.
Oh yeah,
showing the guys standing on top of the car and the burning and everything. Where meanwhile she's hey, what, stop believing your lying eyes. I mean, clearly everything's ice cream and puppy dogs out here in California.
And these are the same exact people that are willing to say, whoa, we need these stupid gun laws that don't affect anybody except law-abiding citizens, because if it only saves one life, then it's worth it. And then they let this stuff happen, and like over and over and over again, all these things are happening, and they're just saying, oh, it doesn't matter, it's not really there. Like they're blind. It's so insane.
Well, I mean, Michael, being you're the executive director there for San Diego County gun owners, the gun laws, the California gun laws like the back of your hand, I'm sure. And I mean, I keep up on the New York State stuff, and it's so limiting, and it's also so blatantly hypocritical. The laws that they place on us gun owners in New York and California, when the violence is so, they're letting criminals out of jail. Yep. Early release, bail reform, whatever, just to get them out there so they can do crap like this in LA. And then they do everything they can to restrict the law-abiding citizens' gun rights. I believe that it really is because they want to quell the will. Okay, how's that? Quell the will of the American patriot. Michael, what are your thoughts?
Well, you're absolutely right. The laws in both states are completely ludicrous. But that they complain in these with this immigration issue that they have armed law enforcement that are showing up at a person's home or place or whatever and hauling them off, and how they have the right or whatever. Well, now look at what they do to gun owners, because in California they do the exact same thing, and I don't hear any outrage. And what I mean by that is, they absolutely send a law enforcement officer who's all kitted up, who has a firearm. They send them to a gun owner's home. If that gun owner doesn't have the right firearm or has a firearm that the state disagrees with, they send them to the home and do arrest them for exercising a civil right, like the right to keep and bear arms. And nobody's fired up about that. It reminds me of that scene in the movie Ballad of Buster Scruggs, when the two guys are hanging, and the one guy looks at the other guy and says, "Oh, is it your first time?" Well, gun owners deal with this stuff all the time. They deal with these kind of infringements or heavy-handed tactics when it comes to law and law enforcement all the time. And they're acting like with this immigration issue, it's the first time ever. But and I do wish. I certainly do not wish that for any violence, but I do wish that gun owners would get as fired up and passionate when these things happen as these protesters are about immigration. Yeah. Because as gun owners, we're experiencing the same things. Lives are being ruined. People's jobs are being destroyed. Their savings accounts are being drained, all because of these ridiculous gun laws that don't exist really in any other part of the country and are clearly unconstitutional.
Yeah, and there's a lot of us who are always constantly fighting for our gun rights, but then there's some gun owners who they don't do anything. They just kind of expect somebody else to do the heavy lifting, and that's kind of annoying. I talked to a couple guys, old timers, and they basically said, I'm not interested in that arguing. I just need my shotgun so I can go hunting. I can just need this. Whatever. I'm not going to get out of it. I'm not going to make a big deal out of it. Well, yeah, you don't care. You're about ready to leave. What about the next generations? Don't you care that the next generations will have the rights that they should under the Constitution? That pisses me off, that whole mindset. But
It-
one
it's a-
thing, go ahead.
It does, but our organization, what we like to say is we make activism easy, and I feel like the goal and responsibility of our organization is to give people opportunities to do meaningful activism.
Yeah.
And so that's what we do. We organize so that they can teach other people about firearms and firearms laws. We organize so that they can spread the word about our organization or whatever horrible law we're fighting against, or supporting whatever good candidate we found to run for office who's pro Second Amendment. So we organize these different events and, tabletops and shooting socials or whatever we can do. And then all we need is for people to just set a little bit of time aside, parachute in, help us out for, half a day. And we've proven that we can get good things done. We've proven that we can get good people elected. We've proven that we can overcome bad public policy before it gets put in place. And we don't have to rely on lawsuits. We're certainly a part of a number of lawsuits, and we're very proud of that. But true activism, when you're affecting public policy, getting people elected, raising money for a good cause, that's the ounce of prevention. You don't have to worry about that's not even a pound of cure. It's like 100 pounds of cure once it's put into place. So that's what we concentrate on, and we've got a good track record, and we've been doing a good job.
Your website, real quick, we'll put it up.
Sure, it's San Diego County Gunowners.com or sdcgo.org. sdcgo.org.
So let me get to one of our sponsors real quick. This is appropriate for states, people who have ARs in states like yours and mine. The Cali Key. Now, Michael, I'm not sure if you know about the Cali Key, but this device, the Cali Key, removes your AR from the definition of so-called assault weapon. When they create these so-called assault weapon ban lists, they're created and they exclude manually operated bolt-action firearms. So just by dropping the Cali Key into your direct impingement AR in place of your semi-automatic BCG, you will have a bolt-action rifle that falls outside the definition of assault weapon, so you don't need to do anything else. So give the Cali Key a look, because with it, you could retain all your rifle's features, avoid registration complications, revive your black rifle sales if you're an FFL, regain the ability to do private party transfers, legally transport across hostile jurisdictions, hunt with your AR in areas like Pennsylvania, enhance long-range precision and quiet or suppressed shooting. Cali Key has state-specific expert attorney opinions on its website and supports grassroots Second Amendment organizations with its sales. Cali Key's mission, to empower customers and claw back our civil liberties. So go to calikey.com and use the discount code LOADED.
Founders spends a lot of time in San Diego, by the way. We were there right at the beginning of Cali Key, and it is a wonderful product. And we're one of the grassroots Second Amendment organizations that they've supported in the past. So definitely
awesome.
check them out.
Yeah, I didn't know if you were in contact with those guys. They are fantastic. They're really good guys. And I got to hang out and talk with them. Where was it? Gun Rights Policy Conference, probably in Phoenix, maybe. And they knew about the show and they wanted to sponsor the show, and I was more than happy to take them on. I think what they're doing is really great, because although we shouldn't have to neuter our AR-15s,
Right.
If we're in a state that does, this is like the perfect workaround for your gun, the Cali Key. So they're doing great stuff over there. Good guys.
They're the first ones that'll tell you they desperately want us to put them out of business.
Yeah, I know. They said that. Yes. Yep.
So.
Yep.
So hopefully all these, hopefully this will get cleaned up, hopefully through lawsuits and through policy changes in the, DOJ and the Attorney General, Bondi, and, hopefully the Trump administration has set us on a trajectory that a lot of this stuff will just go away. But it's just, the fight's never going to be done. There's never going to be a time when we can go, hey, we're done. Let's move on and do something else. We don't have to worry about this anymore. That's the price of freedom is ever vigilance. What stupid scheme are they going to try to pass this time?
Yeah, exactly. I actually have a Cali Key right here that I could show you. I don't know if you can see it. I don't know if you can see that device, but that is pretty cool. I mean, and I can't give you a close up of it, but it's machined beautifully. You got to check this thing out. People have to check this out if you have an AR, even just for kicks. Even if you don't need it, get it, because it's just a cool device. Anyway, let's see here. I wanted to get to a couple things. There's so much to talk about. Danny, how far are we from break? We can go okay, let's take a break, because there's a ton of stuff that I want to get to here. We'll be right back after this. We're just 1 minute. Check out our sponsors. I think you'll be happy. We'll be right back with Michael Schwartz from San Diego County Gun Owners. Our founding fathers saw them coming over 200 years away. That's why they wrote the Second Amendment. Join us in the fight to preserve your gun rights and stop unconstitutional gun control. Gun Owners of America is the country's only no-compromise gun rights organization. Not only do we inform and educate, but we bring the fight to court and win. Your God-given right to keep and bear arms is our top priority. Become a member today and help us take back America. Join us at gunowners.org.
The Cali Key removes your AR from the definition of an assault weapon. It lets you keep your rifle with all its features, avoid registration hassles, and transport in hostile jurisdictions. The Cali Key also lets you hunt in jurisdictions like Pennsylvania and enhances long-range precision shooting. Cali Key's expert legal opinions empower informed decisions, and sales help grassroots Second Amendment organizations. Cali Key is your tool to keep and equip your AR, empower yourself, and defend your civil rights.
All right, so we're back with Michael Schwartz from San Diego County Gun Owners, and we're talking mostly about the riots. But as I knew we'd get into gun laws and gun stuff, because that's what we talk about. But anyway, I wanted to get back to the riots a little bit, because I think it's important that we understand why these people are doing this stuff, because it affects us not only in our daily lives, but it affects our rights. I mean, if they can get away with this stuff, can you imagine some of the things that the Democrats will get away with? And I believe, Michael, tell me what you think. I believe they really need to change that electoral college, and they need to change the population, because logical, real Americans simply don't vote for Democrats because the policies don't line up with our beliefs and our values. So they're trying to, it seems, replace the American voter with a dependent foreign, primarily Mexican, but other foreign from other countries as well. They're trying to replace them and make them dependent, so they will always vote Democrat. What do you think?
I think that there's a huge, it's like we're going through this transition in the human race, where we have all this information coming to us, by the hour, and we don't quite know how to handle it. And all of a sudden, people are, quote unquote experts in every little issue that bubbles up, and you listen to their complaints, you listen to the way they're rationalizing their behavior, at least trying to, and they have no idea what they're talking about, and we live in a representative republic, which means that ideally we hire somebody to represent us, and then that person should be making decisions for us. That person should be educating themselves and making good decisions that are good for the country, good for the people in the country. But instead, we elect somebody, and then everybody weighs in on every little thing that comes along, whether they really understand it or not. If you just look back at the last week, look at how many enormous issues have been at the center of the news cycle. And I really just don't think, I don't think we quite know how to handle all this information that's coming at us. I don't think that we know how does this affect, the government that was created for us, 250 years ago. We're not a direct democracy. We're not supposed to weigh in and vote on every single issue every single day. That's not That's not what's supposed to be going on. So you're seeing these really low information people who are absolutely, their only education is this weird propaganda machine. And now they're, making decisions and, fighting back and marching and rioting and doing all these things. And I don't know. I don't quite know how to mesh the two. I do think the secret is education. I think we all need to be smarter, better, and more educated. But gosh, that sounds like such a tall order.
It is a pretty tall order, especially when so many on the left seem against any kind of modification to our education system, which has obviously failed us drastically. And I think a lot of this is just individual self-importance. Everybody's been taught by the internet that your opinion matters and you're this and you're perfect just the way you are. So everybody goes out there and starts thinking that they're in charge of something when they have nothing to do with anything. I don't know if you watched the Orville TV show. There was a planet that they visited where everybody had a badge with a green arrow and a red arrow up and down, and everybody voted on everything every second. So everything was live on the internet, and somebody did something. You could be killed over something that happened if you have over 3 million people that gave you a down on these things. So we saw how bad that got. But that's kind of the way it is, right? It's like everybody's criticizing everybody about everything, and nobody knows what they're talking about. That's why we have the government we have.
Yeah.
You have representatives to represent you. You're not supposed to be pushing a button every second, telling people how they're supposed to act.
Well, and that reminds me, it's kind of different, but it reminds me of the movie Demolition Man, where you would be out in people would be out in public and they'd say a bad word, and the thing would pop up out of the ground and give them a citation. Like, talk about no freedom of speech.
And then Sylvester Stallone ended up using that as toilet paper because he didn't know what the shells were for in the bathroom.
Oh, I don't remember.
He kept saying, damn, 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 or something. I'm going in here.
I got to watch that movie again.
That's pretty funny.
And I remember they were looking at, they had like this museum, and they had all these, what were old guns. These were, it was like a big deal to look at these old guns, and it's stuff that we have today. It was just kind of interesting movie to see the perspective of what could happen. And China's not far from that.
I would think.
Cameras even in America, there's cameras in all the cities. There's everywhere.
I'd be broke if they find me every time I
know.
said a bad word.
I just got a camera speeding ticket a couple months ago, and I was on the road for like a quarter of a mile, and I got a $50 ticket for going 31 miles an hour. It was so stupid.
Well,
you're right, though. It is a cultural thing, though, Dan. They really are truly trying to change the culture.
Yeah.
And the idea of being self-sufficient, or really there even being consequences to people's decisions, all that is out the window.
Yeah, and you know what I think it is, and I've always said this. In America, we have two groups. Well, we have many groups of people, but when we're talking about this, we have two primary groups of people. You have conservatives who are generally responsible for their own actions. In other words, hey, when I screw up, I take responsibility. I pay the price. I fix the problem. I make it good. But when I succeed, I want to reap those rewards. Now, that's a responsibility of a conservative that's different than the way these liberal progressives act. It seems like the leftist doesn't want any accountability, doesn't have any sense of, what
they want you to be accountable.
They're right. They want to be able to control people, but they don't want to take accountability for themselves. And what happens is you get people who are willing to create a controlling government, complete control, communism type government. And that's why I think they want that, because that feels safer to them. They don't have to take responsibility. They're told what to do, where to go, what to eat, how far they can travel, right, what to wear. They're told, in a communist country, they would be told everything, and they would be happy with that because, hey, the way they look at it is I don't have any responsibility. I can't get in trouble for doing something wrong. I just follow the rules, and I'm good. Conservatives are like, screw you. I'm a free American. Nobody's going to know. I don't need another man to tell me how to live my life. Well, that's not going to happen.
That's part of the basic problem, though. Conservatives, they want to be left alone. Like you were talking about the old guys with their guns. They were used to living their lives like nobody's telling me what to do. Nobody's bothering me.
Right.
But the activists, I mean, they think that being an activist is the ultimate honor. Like, I go out there and I'm going to fight for something that's going to make the world a better place when they don't know anything about the world to start out
They'd be the first ones to get killed. The government would take them out first. Absolutely. Thank you very much for your duty. Thank you for bringing America to this socialist communist state. We're done with you, right?
Right.
Michael, sorry, go ahead.
Well, that's the tough part, is that you have this collectivist mindset on one side and you have this individual, mindset on the other side. When the political left has an idea, they really just have to put it out there and everybody follows suit, says, okay, this is it. This is what we're all going to believe today. On our side of the political spectrum, and especially in the gun world, when we say, hey, here's what's going on, and here's why we disagree with it, we got to debate it, talk about it, split hairs for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months. Meanwhile, the other side is working against us to advance their agenda. It's just really, really difficult to organize people who don't have a collectivist mindset. They're going, well, wait a minute, let's really analyze this, talk about it, and figure it out, and blah 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 blah. And maybe there's a better way to do it. Or meanwhile, we're getting steamrolled by the other side.
Oh yeah,
they press one button and boom, they're all off and marching.
Well, that's just it. And they say, getting conservatives on one topic is like herding cats, because we all have our own opinion, and that's the way it should be, really. I mean, that's why
it's a pretty bad cult.
Yeah,
not functioning very well.
But to fall in line as easily as the liberals and the left wingers do is, when I first started noticing it, I don't know how many years ago, I couldn't really understand it, and I had to really kind of study it and see what's causing these people to just go against freedom. It's responsibility. There's no responsibility there.
Well, it's all shallow. It's people that they've committed themselves to believing certain people, certain news, certain narratives. And as long as the stuff keeps coming at them and it agrees with that, they're fine.
Yeah.
They don't need to dig one layer. I have this discussion so often with people. I said, wait a minute, you're saying this, this, and this. Okay, dig down one layer, and why is that thing happening? Oh, what are you talking? That doesn't matter. We're here. It's 2025. 15 million illegals are here. You're not going to turn the clock back. I'm not. Well, first of all, Trump just stopped.
He stopped the clock.
He stopped the clock. Nobody's coming across like they were before. So that's not true, first of all. So can we stop at the first, that's not true, and then go from there instead of just rolling over all these things? January 6th.
No, because it all has to, like you said, it has to continue to line up with what their current belief is.
And they get so many things happening that they don't have time to actually study any specific issue. Like if most people looked at the effect that gun laws have, I don't think they would, half the people that I know would not even be talking about gun laws.
Okay, well that's an interesting topic, because you're right. Some people they'd say, oh, if they actually saw the data and understood the data, they'd say, okay, well, it doesn't make sense to implement more gun laws. But then again, there's another group of anti-gunners that don't care. They really do want to disarm their fellow citizens. Right.
Because they've made the gun evil, right? The gun is, if you make the gun the enemy, it's all about making enemies. If you make Trump Hitler, you can do whatever you want. You make the gun the enemy, you can do whatever you want. Just pick your weapon, pick your evil. Yeah. And it's just such a, again, it's a collectivist mindset, which is dangerous, because you get like I say, you put it out there and everybody just gloms on. Oh, this is the way we have to be. This is the cause of the day, But it's so anti-individualism that this is what bothers us all the time. It's against individual liberty. The whole mindset is against individual liberty. I don't want to tell you what to do. Why do you want to tell me what to do?
Yeah.
Why do you want to tell me how I have to think about this person over here? When did that become a thing?
Look, our life is so short. We're here for 80 to 100 years, and I do not want to live the rest of it with some stupid ass liberal telling me how to live my life. it just, to me, it's the biggest waste of time. We have such a wonderful country with such beautiful documents, founding documents. It really pisses me off that these a-holes are telling everybody what to do, and the media's supporting them. Sorry, Michael, go ahead.
I think that there's an opportunity here, though. Every time there's some kind of flare up, I mean, if you look at it at its root, they're mad at the government, you know, they're mad at law enforcement, they're mad about rights being taken away. There's a conversation to be had with people who you disagree with about why gun rights are so important. And I don't think it's a conversation where it's like, well, gee, the government that you're mad at, you know, if you had a gun, you could shoot them. It's a little bit more nuanced than that. That's not the conversation I think we need to have. I think it's, you know, the ability to relate what we're going through or what we stand for and the overlapping circles, you know, with what they're trying to accomplish. You know, even if, I don't agree with them on a lot of things. I don't agree with the people that are in the streets in LA throwing rocks at law enforcement. I don't agree with them. But if I can get them to agree with me on just one thing, being gun laws, you know, I think that that's something to build on. So as frustrating as it is, try to look at it. I try to look at it anyway as an opportunity. You know, hey, if you guys are frustrated and mad because you're losing rights, because you're not happy with what you see as an overbearing government, well, let me tell you about how I see, you know, us losing rights and an overbearing, government. And, you know, I'll tell you, in 2020, when all these riots were happening and everybody was mad about, you know, BLM and everything that was going on, we got more people that were first-time gun owners in that period than ever before. And I think women, right? A lot of women, a lot of different people. You know, here in California, there was, you know, every gun shop had a story about, you know, some yoga instructor, vegan, who came in and they were like, hey, I want to buy a gun for the first time. You know, every single one of them had a slew of those stories.
And they couldn't understand why they couldn't just walk out with a gun.
Well, even touch it in New York State.
Idiots created this stuff. Well, why is it so difficult? Because that's what you voted for.
Exactly.
Well, yeah, I think, as Michael, I completely honor your willingness to want to talk to these people. You're much kinder and more accommodating than me. I'm done. I don't think I can have that conversation.
Well, you might be able to in person, though. This is the problem, is our world has been so influenced by social media that the way social media operates is not what we're talking about. It's say something.
All right,
here,
you might have
back.
a point.
Say something here, fight back. Because I was thinking on the way up, if I could sit down with somebody and have a conversation, and again, just stop them along the way and say, "Wait a minute, let's clear up what are we talking about here?"
Are they willing to have the conversation with you?
I don't know who they are. I don't even know.
Well, that's true. Who are
nobody
they?
that I know. No, well, some people I think.
The anti-gunner, the radical anti-gunner, are they willing to have that conversation with you?
Probably not.
No,
I'd still
not.
try.
You're right.
I would love to try,
but there's still some low hanging fruit. You're right. The horrible anti-gunner, and that's just who they are. That's what their personality is. You're right. You're not going to be able to perform miracles. But you know, and I'll tell you, if given the choice, if you're going to go spend an hour trying to get a gun owner to be more involved, or you're going to try to convert an anti-gunner into being a gun owner, the better hour spent is getting a gun owner to be more involved. I agree, but there's still an opportunity out there. There's still a chance to, you know, put out a new gun.
Well, I'm willing to try. You know, all right, guys.
I wish there was a bridge there, because I just did a big outdoor show yesterday with a whole bunch of local musicians, and at least 2 or 3 of them are people that have technically disowned me on social media over the last bunch of years, ever since 2020 or 2016. And it's just, it's interesting being there in person with them, is that it's easy to say, hey, how you doing? Nice to see you. Shake your hand.
Yeah.
I mean, there might be a way in that interface to actually have some kind of and I started having a conversation with a woman friend of mine, and she was just off and running, all emotional, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, okay. But I mean, it's too bad that people that we used to have camaraderie with over other parts of our life have to cut themselves off from us because they're too emotional to just have a conversation and accept what you say as not being confrontational. They think we're all against them all the time.
And that's just it. When you're face to face with someone, there's a less chance of it being confrontational because there's more of an inherent risk in that. You don't.
Well, this is the male-female thing too, because when men are talking in person, there's always the risk of somebody getting punched in the throat. Right. When women are talking against each other, and what did I just see today? So somebody's saying about how the protests should be organized by women in California because they're much more conciliatory and everything else. And I'm like, yeah, that's what we need. Jeez. Get some soy out there.
Speaking of, let me show you this. We have this little clip, Michael, that we call Triggered. The political left has lost their collective mind when it comes to illegal migrants. It's just a fact. But to watch them lose it as they record themselves for the entire world to see, this is what's really interesting to me, is this level of passion they have for this topic. So we call this clip, we call this segment
Triggered.
Don't come on my page and say that people should be in this country legally. Don't fucking do it. This is ridiculous. It's inhumane. You are a human being, and don't you dare use Jesus' name or God's name in this and say that this is what he would want and pretend to be a Christian, because you're not. This is pure evil. You are scum of the earth. These are people. These are mothers. These are fathers. These are human beings, and all you care about is where they are geographically. Shame on you. Do better. Be better.
How'd you get your wife to do that?
I don't. I would. Can you imagine being married to her? Just for a minute. Just imagine.
I can't imagine being in the same room with her.
Oh my God. So she. I don't know what happened. You have to really. You have to really be passionate about your cause to be that upset.
Or be off her meds, one or the other.
Oh, Michael, what do you think? How can we fix these people?
She seems nice.
Yeah, she's nice.
She's nice.
She seems really enjoyable. I don't know. I mean, that's not who I'm talking about.
Right.
Exactly.
That person's not, you're not going to have a rational conversation with that person.
I want to get to one of our sponsors real quick. LifeWave is a non-transdermal patch that allows your body to produce its own natural pharmacy through light energy. Now, the X39 patch tells your body to emit heat in the form of light, which reflects back into your body, so elevating a certain copper peptide. Now, this peptide activates your stem cells, which are the only type that can move throughout your body to heal inflammation. LifeWave offers an affordable membership and has a history of wellness that spans 20 years. It's been around since 2004 to help organizations like SEAL Team 6 and the Olympic swim team stay awake and alert. Today, these non-addictive patches are used by thousands of athletes and military professionals. LifeWave is available in over 80 countries, giving millions the opportunity of maximum wellness. So for more information, testimonials and patents and studies, go to naturalpatchlife.com, naturalpatchlife.com, and check them out. A federal grand jury in Newark, New Jersey returned a 3-count indictment charging U.S. Democrat Representative LaMonica McIver potentially facing 17 years in prison. Do we have a picture of her? People might remember this woman, LaMonica. She was charged with forcibly impeding and interfering with federal law enforcement officers. Count 1 has a maximum penalty of 8 years. Count 2 carries an additional maximum penalty of 8 years. And count 3 carries a maximum penalty of 1 year. New Jersey U.S. Attorney Alina Habba had a statement. I think we have a photo of Alina. Text. She says, she had a quote. She said, "As I've stated in the past, it's my constitutional obligation as the chief federal law enforcement for New Jersey to ensure that our federal partners are protected when executing duties." She says in this tweet, "Today, a federal grand jury seated in Newark, New Jersey, returned a 3-count indictment." Okay, so She went on to say, today's decision by the grand jury is the next step in a process that her office will pursue to just end. We have the clip. Maybe people have seen it, maybe they haven't, of this woman, LaMonica, getting violent with federal law enforcement.
You can't talk to a congresswoman like that, and you gotta put your hands on me. You will pay. You guys agree? You will have to be the harassed. You know that's wrong.
So. Yeah, that's it right there. She's kind of plowing through like a linebacker. She's a big woman. That's what I'm saying. So anyway, that's good. So she somehow felt entitled to be able to use force on law enforcement.
Entitled's a good word.
This is the problem. They actually believe that they can get away with this stuff. Like, that's why I say, Michael, I think these activists, like this woman here, they believe that they're doing the right thing. They truly believe that illegal immigration, we should let everybody in, and that's the right thing to do. Because you said it earlier. I think you're absolutely right. They believe they're morally superior to everybody else.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, on the one hand, she's not above the law, and if she broke the law, she should be treated like anybody else. Anybody else that does what she did to law enforcement and in that situation, would they be prosecuted? Would they be, brought up on charges and taken to court? Probably yes. So just because she is a member of Congress doesn't make her above the law on the one hand. On the other hand, the practicality of it, do you want to make this person a martyr? Is this an issue that would really, truly bring...
because you're saying that it might actually work in her benefit and make us look like the big bully?
Yeah, last thing I want to do is make this woman into a hero,
Right. That's a good point.
So, it's kind of a tough call. I mean, on the one hand, she shouldn't be treated special because of what she does for a living. But on the other hand, it's pretty hard to ignore the fact that what she does for a living, as an elected official, makes it into a different situation. Yeah. Certainly doesn't make her better than anybody, but it definitely gives it special consideration as far as going forward. But yeah, I got to tell you, it's just not okay. I mean, people in elected officials should be held to a higher standard. They shouldn't be able to get away with more. They should be held to a higher standard. And
they should act respectfully. I mean, I would think that they'd act differently because they have that position. Anyway, Michael, we got to wrap it up, but it's been great having you on the show. Tell people where they can find you and how they can support San Diego County gun owners.
Yeah, you bet. Go to SanDiegoCountyGunOwners.com and do a little donation. Now, everything that we're fighting against here, it won't make it to your state if we win, right? So help us fight it here and in our front yard so it doesn't make it to your backyard. Yeah, go to sdcgo.org, give us a little donation. And Dan, thank you guys so much for having me on the show. I really appreciate and value what you guys do. So thank you.
Thanks. Right. Thanks so much, Mike. I really value what you guys are doing out there in San Diego. I appreciate it. Keep up the great work. And thank you for watching the show today on Rumble, YouTube, and all our podcast platforms. My name is Dan Woss, and the Second Amendment is not a privilege. It's your right